Much to my surprise, one of the things that happened from my social media accounts was I would start to get questions about what are the best architecture courses to study, what are the best places to study architecture in, even what school courses, subjects could be taken in preparation for studying architecture. Now, I have to say to them and to you, I'm not an architect. I've never formally studied architecture. However, after school, I almost did study architecture, although I ended up doing English history high school teaching. But I've always kept an interest in architecture, and I've kept an eye over the fence, so to speak, for the last 50 years as to what's happening in architecture. And there's a very significant thing that's happening now. And if I were an architecture student, I would certainly want to be aware of this because it has the possibility to enhance my architectural practice and I think therefore architectural success for all the time I practice architecture. Let me tell you what it is. I'm talking about the what and the why, and see if this information isn't something you could employ now to advantage your career and perhaps even your university study. Now, the 70s was a decade of great change, not just in fashion and music, but in all sorts of things. And in architecture, it saw the introduction of computer-aided design, or computer-assisted design, it's often called. Until then, all drawing in architecture and drafting was all done by hand, and therefore there were courses that taught the sort of drawing needed to be done in these career areas as part of the training courses for them. But very quickly, the computer-aided design became the computer-done design, where all of the drawing in the end could be done by the computer programs of increasing sophistication. With artificial intelligence, we're on a wave of that even going further, digging into the actual design work, not just the presentation of it. But for decades, the drawing courses, now seen as outdated that students once did, were dropped and replaced with, I imagine, courses dealing with the architectural software that they would now be able to use. However, after decades of hand drawing being in the architectural wilderness, it's now coming back into fashion. And this is what I would want to make sure I both knew and was prepared for if I was studying architecture now. Everyone in business, whatever the business, is always looking for an edge over the competition, searching for a way of standing out in some way. And architecture as a field, as a business area, is no different. And hand drawing has become a way of standing out over other architects and architectural firms. Hand drawing in presentations has become a way that architecture firms can introduce a sense of artistry into their design work, going beyond the technical exactness of computer-drawn diagrams, going beyond the mere placement of lines in the right place. Now, if hand-drawing presentations can set one architectural firm apart from the others, then it can certainly set individual architects apart from their architect peers. And in a competitive market, as architecture is in Australia right at this point, anything that sets us apart from our peers who are competing for the same positions we are is going to be a helpful thing. I see two main areas of advantage in being able to create effective hand drawings in an architectural context. And the first is prestige. In some ways, this skill is now a luxury, an indulgence. It's no longer a necessity, but it's a way of value adding to our product. It adds a human touch, an artistic touch, a warmer, perhaps less sterile looking visual effect in our presentation. All the sorts of characteristics that we do associate with top-end market products. And secondly, more from an architect management point of view, being able to draw quickly and confidently by hand, being able to draw confidently, rapidly, accurately, and with style is a great skill to have in discussions with management or clients, in presenting concepts, ideas, possibilities. Besides being able to quickly present an idea, it's also a way of further, within those discussions, of modifying, of tweaking, of adding, of taking away. because straight away we can have a visual sense that gives us enough understanding for agreement or disagreement. And we don't need to spend unnecessary time going off and working up a more formal computer diagram to discover it's not what one of the parties was thinking of. Being able to rapidly and accurately draw, particularly in a simplified conceptual sense, puts everyone on the same page very quickly. And it also lets them feel included. It lets them know that you are understanding and including their thinking immediately. It also, perhaps as the architect, lets you control in some way the way it's expressed as well. But we're not simply talking about perspective and buildings. If I were an architectural landscaper or a landscaper, it would be incredibly useful for me to be able to be on site, looking at the terrain that we had with a client and to very rapidly but accurately sketch out some landscaping possibilities. We're not just talking about retaining walls, we're jumping ahead a few years and visualizing how the different options of plantings might look in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time. Again, we can have instant alignment or realizing that we're not aligned for the words that one or both parties are speaking. And again, if what we've said isn't looking the way the client or management had thought it was going to look, we can make changes, discuss changes, and deal with everything, or at least a lot of things, in that session. It's a great efficiency gain. It's a great efficiency gain as well. This is the sort of skill that can build confidence with management, with the client, and put you ahead in the architecture game. Mark you out as someone with specialist skills that not every architect has when those specialist skills are needed, which can also perhaps involve you with the more interesting clients and job possibilities. And of course, it's fun to draw as well. What is there to lose? If I were an architecture student, and if at the institution where I was studying architecture, there were drawing courses, hand drawing courses I could take that perhaps were optional, I'd certainly be taking them. However, if they weren't available, or if I wasn't able to fit them in to the overall structure that I've planned for my course, then I would be seeking to develop them elsewhere. For while they may not be a necessity for architecture these days, they are certainly skills that can be put to use in a wide range of situations, all of which will benefit the architect doing them. It's a way of distinguishing yourself from others around you, of bringing positive attention, of you being an architect that your supervisors and managers know by name. And if I was starting out working in architecture, I would think these were great things to have. G'day, I'm Stephen Travis. I hope you found this interesting. If you're an architecture student, or perhaps you've just graduated from architecture and are now working in the field, I'd love to hear your comments. Maybe this is more of an in Australia thing. So if you don't think it's the case in other parts of the world, please let us know in the comments. I would love to hear, as much for my own interest as for the benefit of anyone watching this and reading the comments, of what the particular situation where you are is. But let me encourage the benefit in so many ways of working on our hand drawing skills. And of course, I hope my channel can be of some use in this, particularly perhaps my playlists on perspective and also on drawing trees and foliage. Two areas that I know are of perpetual difficulty for people, but perhaps of keen and particularly relevant if we're drawing architectural or landscaping concept sketches. But of course, whatever you're doing, however you're drawing it, by hand, digitally, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.